In Ogoni village, 12 people had died in 3 months. All of them were young, all of them were healthy before the night they stopped breathing. The elders gathered under the Iroko tree and made sacrifices to the gods. They consulted the oracle. They poured libations at the shrines. Nothing worked. Every few days, another family would wake to find their son or daughter cold in bed. Mothers stopped sleeping. Fathers kept watch through the night. Young people were afraid to close their eyes. The village herbalists prepared protective charms, but they were useless. Death moved through Ogoni like smoke, silent and unstoppable. Nobody connected it to what happened 6 months ago. Few months ago, Dike was killed in the village square. He was a farmer who tapped palm wine and told jokes that made children laugh. He had married Asa when she was pregnant with his child. Everyone saw how much he loved her. But Senna said he raped her. She came running into the square one evening with her wrapper torn and scratches on her arms. She screamed that Dike had attacked her in the bush near the stream. The men gathered immediately. Dike tried to speak, tried to explain, but nobody wanted to hear him. In Ogoni, rape was an abomination. The punishment was death. They dragged him to the center of the village. Asa held onto his arm and begged them to listen, but they pushed her aside. The stones came fast. Dike stopped trying to defend himself after the first few hits. When it was over, they left his body in the square until nightfall as a warning. Asa buried him outside the village, in the place reserved for criminals. She went to his grave every single day. She knelt in the red dirt and cried. She told him she believed him. She told him she knew the truth, and every day she begged him to take revenge. She was the only person in Ogoni who knew Dike was innocent. Dike and Senna grew up in the same compound. Their families had arranged their marriage when they were children. Senna waited for him. She refused other suitors. She learned to cook his favorite meals and prepared herself to be his wife. Everyone in the village knew they would marry. Then Dike met Asa at the market in the neighboring village. Asa sold smoked fish and had a laugh that sounded like music. Dike started going to that market every week, then twice a week. Within 2 months, he told his family he wanted to marry her instead. He never explained anything to Senna. He simply stopped coming to see her. Senna's shame spread through the village like wildfire. People whispered when she walked past. Other women pitied her. Young men saw her as used goods, a woman rejected by the man promised to her. Her father's face grew hard with disappointment. Her mother stopped looking at her. When Dike brought Asa home as his wife, Senna watched from her window. When Asa's belly started to swell 3 months later, something inside Senna broke. She planned it carefully. She waited until evening when the village square was full of people returning from their farms. She tore her own wrapper. She scratched her arms and legs with thorns until blood ran down her skin. She rubbed dirt into her hair and let out a scream that brought everyone running. The lie came easily. She pointed toward Dike's compound and said he had dragged her into the bush. She said he had forced himself on her. The words tumbled out of her mouth like poison, and every word was believed. The men did not wait. They did not ask questions. They went to Dike's house and pulled him out while Asa screamed. They dragged him through the village like an animal. Dike kept saying he did not do it. He begged them to listen. He looked at Senna and asked her why she was lying, but his voice was drowned out by the angry shouts. Asa tried to throw herself between Dike and the mob, but the women held her back. She fought them with all her strength, but she was heavy with child, and they were many. She watched as the first stone hit her husband's face. She watched as blood poured from his head. She watched until his body stopped moving. That night, Senna lay in her bed and felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just emptiness. But Asa did not feel empty. Asa felt rage. Every morning, she walked to that grave. Every morning, she placed her hands on the dirt and whispered the same prayer. She asked the spirits to hear her. She asked the gods to see her pain. She asked Dike's spirit to rise up and make them pay. 3 weeks after Asa started praying, the first young person died in their sleep. The deaths reached 20 before the village elders summoned the chief priest. He was an old man who rarely left his shrine, but fear had swallowed Ogoni whole. Young people were dying every week now. Families were fleeing to other villages. The farmlands lay untended because nobody wanted to work alone in the fields. The chief priest prepared himself for 7 days. He fasted and made sacrifices. On the 8th day, he entered the sacred grove and called upon the spirits to reveal the truth. Dike's spirit came to him that night. The vision unfolded like a terrible dream. Senna stood alone in the bush, tearing her own wrapper with shaking hands. She dragged thorns across her skin until blood appeared. She rubbed dirt into her hair and rehearsed the words she would say. Then she ran into the village square, screaming. The mob formed quickly. Dike protested his innocence, but no one listened. The stones flew. His blood spilled onto the ground while Asa screamed and fought against the women holding her back. Through it all, the spirit showed the chief priest the truth that everyone had refused to see. Dike had never touched Senna. He had died for a lie born from jealousy and shame. When the vision ended, the chief priest wept. The next morning, he called the entire village to the square. His voice shook as he spoke. He told them about the vision. He told them that Dike was innocent. He told them that his restless spirit was taking revenge because he had been killed for a crime he did not commit and buried like a criminal instead of with honor. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Some people turned to look at Senna. She stood at the edge of the crowd with her head down. Others looked at their own hands, remembering the stones they had thrown. Asa stood apart from everyone, her baby strapped to her back, her face unreadable. The chief priest gave them the solution. Dike's body must be moved from the criminal's ground. He must be buried properly in the village cemetery with full rites. His name must be cleared. Only then would his spirit find peace. The men dug up the grave that same day. They placed what remained in a carved wooden coffin. The whole village gathered for the burial in the proper cemetery. They sang the songs reserved for honorable men. They poured palm wine on his grave. The elders asked his spirit for forgiveness. Asa did not cry. She stood over the new grave with her baby and felt something close to peace. Her daughter would know that her father was a good man. That was enough. Senna was brought before the elders the next day. Some villagers shouted that she should be stoned like Dike was. Others said she should be killed and thrown into the evil forest. But the chief priest raised his hand. Enough blood had been spilled. Enough death had visited Ogoni. Senna was banished. She was given until sunset to leave and told never to return. Some people watched her go with pity in their eyes. A woman destroyed by jealousy, they said. Others spat on the ground as she passed. She got what she deserved, they said. The deaths stopped after Dike's proper burial. Ogoni slowly came back to life. But the villagers never forgot what their anger had done. They never forgot how quickly they had killed an innocent man. And whenever someone made an accusation, the elders would pause and remember. They would ask questions. They would listen. Because some mistakes cannot be undone, only learned from.